Let's start off with some very sad news as far as Marcellus Williams, a case that went very popular on social media. Gentleman that I believe he was on death row for 26 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll just breeze through this story so we can kind of, but maybe later on we can have more in-depth conversation with an expert. But long story short, he was convicted of a murder in like the late 90s, I believe. And with new DNA evidence and everything that's come out, it's actually a high probability that he was innocent of the crime that he was convicted of. So much so that the prosecution in the state actually supported an overturn of his case and a stop on his death. I mean, I don't know what else can you do? If the prosecution is advocating for you, of course your defense is going to advocate for you. But like I said, the evidence, no evidence with DNA, it just was a variety of different things that came out. Issues with the trial when it first happened. He pretty much got railroaded. That's what it looks like. He got railroaded. And he had been up for execution another time. They stopped it at the last minute. And there was a strong push online to get the governor to stop the execution. The governor did not stop the execution. The governor of Missouri did not stop the execution, went full-fledged with it. And last night, he was actually murdered. So, this has been something that has been on social media a lot as far as just injustice when it comes to American system, especially when it comes to Black men, particularly in America. There's been hundreds of cases of people that have been wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted of crimes, and some of them have been put to death. So first and foremost, rest in peace to that brother.
God rest his soul.
And to his family. Very inspiring, just even seeing some of the things that he was saying before he was executed. Just his manner of acceptance. And he wasn't
angry.
Yeah, it's like what was that? I hate to use this comparison, but it's kind of like remember when they had that Treyway case and the kid, I think his name was Shotty actually, and he was like, "We don't bend, we don't fall, we don't break." Like and that's actually when I saw him, like, he 26 years down, death row, and he's like,
standing
whatever,
tall.
Yeah, whatever, whatever's God's will is God's will, like, and I think that was extremely inspiring to see, because these dudes be breaking after one day in jail. So, when somebody is at 26 years, wrongfully convicted, death penalty, and he had enough, mental fortitude to just still go through with day to day, that's extremely impressive. So definitely rest in peace to the brother and condolences to his family.
Yeah, God rest his soul. Justice is not always just. And for those of you that have people in the prison or correctional system, make sure you check on your people. Things are not always fair. They need you to be present. It's not just money. It's not just visits. Things can go wrong. And I know in America, we like to believe that just because someone is convicted means that they were guilty. There have been thousands of cases where people were not guilty or received too harsh of a sentence. So God rest his soul.
Yeah, it's one of these things, it's a quote. The victim's family opposes his execution. Jurors who originally sentenced him to death now oppose his execution. The prosecutor's office that convicted and sentenced him to death has admitted they were wrong and zealously fought to undo the conviction. So the victim's family didn't want him to die. The jury that actually sentenced him, they changed their mind. The prosecutor's office, they changed their mind. But, for whatever reason, the governor of Missouri didn't care about any of that and still thought that it was a good idea to execute him. So I think it speaks to a few different things in America. A Black life is not as important as a white life. And that's the whole thing behind Black Lives Matter, right? Like, no matter how you feel about the political organization,
the saying
I understand the saying of it, because it's like, and that's what was disturbing when Lil Wayne couldn't understand. He was like, he can't understand why Black lives. This is a perfect example, because it's like, how many white terrorists, from the guy in Buffalo to the guy in South Carolina, whatever, you name it, none of them have been sentenced to, none of them have died. None of them have been executed. Not one of them that I can remember, right?
The guy who just tried to assassinate Trump.
Yeah. And then so you get a Black man from Missouri, shows you the difference between having a public defender, having a prosecutor that wants. It's no different than a Central Park Five. If they want to make you a criminal, they'll make you a criminal. And this still happens to this day in 2024. His life didn't matter enough for them to even, not even letting him out of jail would have been beneficial, but not even, it's like you couldn't even just spare his life. He's still on death row, he's still in jail. Like it was that important for you to kill him by a lethal injection. And I think we even got to talk about the death penalty. Is it even humane for another person to take another person's life, right? Because like, what are we, like in like the 1700s, where it's like, execution, like we're supposed to be we're supposed to be a civilized country. Well, how do you determine who's going to die and who's not going to die?
But we can argue is, to go my 19 keys back, shout out to the brother. If the country was formed on savagery, can we ever be a civil country?
Or will you ever be free in America?
Nope. I keep telling you, there's no such thing as freedom. There's no such, impossible. The land that you own, you don't own outright. If you're still being taxed on it, your home, you don't own free. Like, it's levels and layers to this, man. So it's why we got to love each other, enjoy the time that we have. But yeah, the justice system is not just, especially when it comes to us. Like I even have friends that have gotten like traffic tickets they missed the date they go to court, didn't have a good lawyer, didn't think they needed a good lawyer. 320 days in county. Like, no prior criminal record.
And it's like, sometimes, like I say, there's truth in a lot of these movies and a lot of comedy. And it's like, even a movie like Life, right, which is a classic movie, but there's a lot of truth and there's a lot of trauma in that, right? Where they got, wrongfully convicted, sentenced to life. And, it's a comedy, but underneath that is actually speaks to the injustice of the criminal justice system in America for Black men. Yeah. And that was a real deep movie. And it's like, there's a lot of people who have been either falsely accused, or even Nas. Like when Nas said that, I was listening to Memory Lane, shout out to Esco, Illmatic. And he was like, judges hanging niggas incorrect bails for direct sales. So even if you do get sentenced on something that's actually legitimate, incorrect sentencing is a big thing.
Incredibly harsh. Right? Yeah.
Like even like Wallow, I think people know his story, but it's like, all right, you get sentenced to 20 years in jail at 17 years old for armed robbery. 20 years for a teenager?
But Sam Bankman-Fried girls took $14 billion and got 2 years. Like what? Make it make sense. Not saying that he was right to do it, but shout out to Wallow and congrats.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like even
it's like, come on.
The whole criminal justice system, how we look at it. Like there's some countries, like I think it's Sweden, one of these countries, the most you can get in jail is 25 years. They don't even have a life sentence. They don't have a death penalty. So it's just like, and the way that we over-index on Black people. Like I said, when crack, when the laws came out and it was 100-1 versus crack versus cocaine, and that punished crack 100 times more than powdered cocaine. It's the same exact drug. So now you're sending people that was selling 1 gram of crack, 10 grams of crack, 37 years in jail, 42 years in jail for low-level drug dealers. Somebody's moving kilos of cocaine and they getting 6 months in the feds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just speaks to Black lives not as valuable as white lives in the world, but definitely not in America. So I think that that's something that the politicians need to really think about when they're asking for votes on the Democratic side and the Republican side. You got to hold everybody accountable. If you take the oath to become a politician, you deserve to be held accountable for injustices that happen in this country. And Black people should worry about Black people first. Like every other group worries about their group first. Black people should worry about Black people first.
It's a noble thought, but it's too many sellouts. And then also, if you're a politician, or are you there to serve the people, or by definition is the people that you're serving the powers that be?
The powers that be.
Yeah.
You know that. Yeah. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
And this is the problem with there's no equality in capitalism. In order for capitalism to work, 73 to 85% of America needs to be under a certain threshold. And one day, not anytime soon, but one day we'll talk about the other businesses that run America and that jail system. If you've ever sent money to anybody inside or see how that operates,
that's $1 billion industry. We did an episode on this. We did an episode on this, I think, early in the pandemic with Mike Starr, talking about from the calls that you make, from the food, the entertainment that's provided.
Yep.
All of these are contracts that private companies have with either federal penitentiary, if it's a federal jail, or the state, or the private institution, if it's a private prison. These is billions of dollars that's made. So what would be the incentive if I'm X, Y, and Z company and I'm supplying the food, I'm supplying the call system, I'm supplying, what would be the detergent? What would be the deterring factor for me to lower jail population if I'm making billions of dollars a year from this?
But you're right. And then detergent, cleaning supplies, like what is, okay, we know the value of Cash App. What is JPay worth?
Yeah. And then we got to talk about the
process those payments. Like what?
Even the guards. Like I have friends that's in jail. Like you go to these jails, they put you in the mountains 6 hours north. And that's their economy. That's that town's economy. Let alone those prisoners get counted as their population, so they actually get more resources. That's that's a political play within itself. You bring in all these prisoners from all different parts of downstate, upstate. Now this town has an additional 3,000 people that's included in the census, and now they're getting funding, they're getting representation as if their town had an additional 3,000 people. And then it's an economy that's created for those usually rural, white, poor towns. These people come and they make $100,000 a year being a correctional officer. And now they get to implement their level of racism and power. I've heard firsthand experiences. People getting cursed out, getting called a nigga, punched in their face, abused.
Yeah, getting beat up.
The police in jail abuse the prisoners probably more than police on the street abuse regular people. Like they abuse prisoners like it's nothing. And there's literally nothing you can do about it. Really, what you want to do?
Yeah.
Tell a warden?
Mistake. It's tough.
So yeah, man. It's really unfortunate situation, but I think it does highlight, just what America is. That's what America is built on.